Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in a future episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. So the first question for today comes in from Mr. Zampa, who asks, what would you think if DICE could add some kill streaks in Battlefield 4? Now, I don't want to sound like a COD fanboy, I am not. I mean like realistic kill streaks, like the A10 run, artillery strike, extraction from one place to another, etc. So I've actually been getting a lot of these questions recently regarding kill streaks, and I think that's a good thing, because that means that more Call of Duty players are getting excited about Battlefield, and I think more people loving Battlefield and getting into Battlefield is a good thing. But at the same time, don't get your hopes up for kill streaks ever in the Battlefield franchise. And I'm not exactly sure where I heard it, but I believe a developer straight out came out and said that there will never be kill streaks in Battlefield or even in the foreseeable future. And honestly, that's a good thing, because if you want to think about it this way, there are already kind of kill streaks in the game, and they come in the form of vehicles. You have jets, you have helicopters, you have tanks, and if you get in one of those bad boys, I mean, you can do some work. If you guys have seen my Double Vision series where Level Cap and I get into the attack helicopter, we can go on some pretty awesome kill streaks, and it's pretty much the same thing as if you were getting into the Apache kill streak helicopter for the Black Ops game. And honestly, if they did add kill streaks, it'd be a little absurd. I mean, they already have vehicles flying and driving all over the place, and then can you imagine if they also had the ability to call in more vehicles or call in airstrikes on a certain location, mortars everywhere? It would get a little bit too absurd. So they aren't going to be doing that for Battlefield 4. I don't even see them doing it for any future Battlefield games after that. It's kind of the way that they distinguish themselves from the Call of Duty franchise. I'm glad that you enjoy that from COD. I mean, that's one of the main appealing reasons why so many people like that franchise, but it just doesn't work in Battlefield, and it's not going to happen. So the next question for today comes in from Mega Man of Time, who asks, what do you think about losing 100 points every time you Rambo revive? This will make players careful when reviving someone. So Rambo reviving has always been kind of an issue in the Battlefield franchise. It was really bad in Bad Company 2. They tried to remedy it a little bit in Battlefield 3, where they gave you the option to not accept a revive, and you'll just go back to the spawn screen. But the way that you describe trying to solve this problem, I don't think is the right way to handle things, because you're really disincentivizing players to play as a team. If you reduced someone's point by 100 simply because they revived you and maybe a second later you died, they're less likely to go out of their way to res people. They're less likely to be a team player because they don't want to get reduced points. And so I don't think that's where I would want DICE to try to handle or fix this problem. But there are a couple of things that they could do to reduce the amount of times this occurs. One way that they can do it is maybe instead of giving everyone 100 points for getting a revive off, which is the same amount as killing someone, that's a huge incentive to just try to get as many revives off. That's a lot of points. So instead of maybe 100 points, maybe drop it down to 75 or 50, you still want to reward people. There still needs to be enough incentive for you to take the time to go out and revive players, but maybe not as much as it is right now. And the other thing that you can do is maybe change the way that defibrillators work. Maybe make it so that you have to go through an animation. If there is an animation, or at least a longer animation, you have to stay out in the open. You can't just go run around and do those random ninja revives, which is basically what everyone does. Instantaneously zaps them. You can get behind cover very quickly while they're left floundering out in the open, and then of course they die, and then they can continue to do that for a bunch of points. And that's where the heart of the problem comes in. So if they have an animation, that will make it so that you are out in the open. You basically risk yourself dying by doing so. And so what this will cause players to do is to make sure it's safe to revive. They'll kill the enemy, they'll do their best to be safe, and then they'll finally try to get it off. So there are a couple things that DICE can do to try to remedy it, but the way that you suggest it, I think would actually disincentivize teamwork, not what we want in a team-oriented game. And I think if they just change some things slightly here and there, it can reduce the amount that we see it, and overall just increase the enjoyment for everyone. So the final question for today comes in from Xander, who asks, how do you feel about the crossbow making a comeback in Battlefield 4? While some consider it a legitimate weapon and a feature in the game, others find it annoyingly arbitrary and out of place. So many of you are probably already very familiar by now that I love the crossbow in this game. I always use it on the recon class. I hardly ever use the tugs and the MAV simply because I find that weapon so satisfying. It's not easy to use, but that's what makes it so much fun. And so for Battlefield 4, while I don't think that they maybe need to have the crossbow for every class, I think that it would be a nice kind of maybe substitute for, maybe not the secondary, but to have it as an option for the recon. And the reason why I think this is because I feel like it suits the recon really well. I mean, if you're using a bolt-action rifle, you can take people out at a distance, but you're very vulnerable up close and personal, and the crossbow kind of fills that void, but it's not to the point where it's like overpowered. I mean, it requires a lot of skill to take people out. If you miss that one shot, you're probably going to die, and it's kind of got that same feel using a bolt-action rifle. So right off the bat, it kind of feels like a recon weapon in itself, but it will also allow you to flank your enemies well, and it allows you to kind of play that more recon role. When I think of a recon, I don't think of a sniper. I think of someone that tries to get behind enemy lines, they try to be very stealthy, they try to get into a vantage point where they can give their team information. They can play as a recon. And the crossbow allows you to do that and allows you to be very silent. So for me personally, I would love to have the crossbow in Battlefield 4. But that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you have a question that you would like me to answer in a future episode, you can let me know by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.